Hi guys, Jason here, Jason's Trucking Info, and in today's video we are going to talk about trip planning. We're going to go over a lot of different things. I'm going to go over some of the ways that truck drivers used to do trip planning and how they do things now. I'm also going to try to explain things that I haven't even done in a while, because I'm doing things like most of y'all are doing, where I'm just using the GPS for most of the stuff, and I just program most of the stuff into my GPS. If it doesn't find it, then I'll use my phone, and just be really careful and cautious about where I turn down in a semi truck, and make sure I don't go on inappropriate roads and stuff. When it comes to trip planning, in the olden days we had nothing but maps. We didn't have GPSs, we didn't have phones, we didn't have all this fancy stuff that we have now. I've been looking, I haven't found exit guides. There used to be exit guides with the maps, and I haven't seen any exit guides in a few of the truck stops I've looked. I haven't looked terribly hard for exit guides, because I think they've pretty much gone away, because everybody's got a cell phone to Google stuff with. Everybody's got a lot of guys have a laptop on their truck, and a lot of people have a GPS. Most people aren't messing with it, and I don't even know how many truck drivers are running around that don't even have a map. Like this one, I bought a brand new one. Last I talked to you, I had my 2014 one. Well, I bought a 2024, and it actually says the year on the cover. So this one is current. So, one thing you want to do is, whenever you're going place, familiar yourself with the area. Look at the area you're in. Right now, I'm in the Woodbridge, Joliet area, south of Chicago. So let me find Illinois. Let's see, that's K. So there's Louisiana. Oh wait, we want to go before. There's Illinois. All right. So what you want to do is, let me get you over here. All right, this is going to be fun because I only got two hands. So here's 80. Here's 80. Here's US 30. I got off US 30 earlier, and I went right over in this area to the mall, which is right off over here somewhere, off of 137. There is a mall somewhere right here somewhere that I went to go to that Hooters right over there. Here's the Joliet area. Let's see, Bolingbrook, Naperville, Woodbridge. I'm in Woodbridge right now. And what you want to do is familiarize yourself with a lot of these roads. 75th Street. There's I-55. There's a toll road, Plainfield. But you can't always just look at the map of the cities. The one problem with trip planning is, when you're using a map, you can't always have this for every city you're going to. There's going to be a lot of places you go to where the town or city is not going to be blown up like this. Only when you go to the bigger cities will you sometimes get this in your motor carrier's atlas. Like over here, you've got the Illinois, Indiana area, and some of the towns. You got Fort Wayne, Indiana, Springfield, Gary. You got some of this broken down area. I mean, this is for Chicago, so they got it broken up into different sections, but it doesn't tell you everything. And there's a lot of things you just can't see. If you're lucky, you can look on here and find where you're going to and see all the streets. Problem is, most of the time you're not going to have that for a lot of the areas you're going to go to. Just to be totally real with you, those of you that are learning trip planning and truck driving, those of you that are new to this, it's nice when you're going to areas and you can look at this, you can look at the map. The advantage that you have of looking at the map is memorizing where stuff's at, and by looking at the map you get in your head how things are laid out. You can see, you know, that, like, I'm just gonna get the map to stay there. Let me try to reset my steering wheel here. Alright, it's staying for now. We got such a glare on this stupid map. There's Woodbridge where I'm at. Come on. Let's see, Woodbridge where I'm at. Here's Bolingbrook, which Bolingbrook is south of where I'm at. Plainfield, Joliet's way down here. And if you kind of get used to, if you go to these areas enough and you get to know the area, you get to know some of the areas and stuff, like Aurora's over here, and you get to know some of the more common areas that you will tend to go to deliver loads. Depending on what company you work for, a lot of companies go to a lot of the same places a lot, and when you get into those areas, you're going to go to a lot of those same places. With different companies have different places they go to all the time. And sometimes you've been trucking long enough, you will go to the same businesses with different companies that you have been to before. But Bolingbrook is a pretty common area. Joliet's a pretty common area. And you could wind up going about anywhere in the Chicago area to deliver. I think I've delivered to the Wheeling area before, and by looking at the map and doing this, you can figure out stuff. Another thing that's good to do, like, let me find Wisconsin, because I've been in Wisconsin a lot. So that's too far. Wisconsin. So I've been doing a lot of going up and down from the St. Paul, Minneapolis area and coming down 94, and then eventually catching 3994 and coming down by Madison. And I picked up in La Crosse. Where is La Crosse? There's Eau Claire. There's La Crosse. I had to go over to here to pick up a load over in this area right here in La Crosse. So you need to familiarize yourself by looking in the map instead of just relying on whatever that's telling you, because you're not going to learn much that way. You're not going to remember a whole lot that much. You remember some stuff, but not nearly as much. Open up your road atlas and look at the map to familiarize yourself as to where things are. Try to remember places you're going to. Try to remember exit numbers and where they were on a highway. Because as you look at this, you will remember more, and it'll be easier for you to figure out how to get places without being so dependent on that thing right there. That thing is a crutch. The GPS is a major crutch. It'll get you places most of the time, and it'll help you get places pretty efficiently, but you will not remember as much about how you got places. Sure, you'll remember little details. You'll remember that you've been in the area. You'll remember certain things about the area. But the reason why old school truck drivers had memorized so much about the country is because they had to open up a map like this and look stuff up. They had to find the city they were going to and figure out how to route themselves from one city to another. And a lot of times they had to call customers and find out what's the big city that you are close to, and once I get to that city, how do I get there? Anymore, a lot of customers have recorded messages when you call them on their automated systems, where they have customer directions from various directions. So like if you were going somewhere in, let's just point out Eau Claire. If you're going to deliver somewhere in Eau Claire, sometimes places will have, if you're coming from I-94 from the west, coming east towards Eau Claire, it'll tell you get off at exit, let's just right here, say we're going to exit, what is that, 52? Yeah, you get off at exit 52, then it'd tell you to take so many whatever roads, like here's 40. Let's say you're going up this road and stuff. But you gotta learn what all these different colored routes are. Okay, you gotta learn what the different map stuff means. So you got to look up things like this. You got to look up, the routing, like where way stations are at, what routes, and then you got to figure out all kinds of stuff about the map. Like here you got different areas like Green Bay and Madison, Appleton, Oshkosh. Up here you got Green Bay and Sheboygan, or however you pronounce that. Sheboygan. So best thing you can do for yourself in this day and age of truck driving is every time you're going to places, especially as a new driver, those of you that have driven for a while, probably have a lot of this stuff memorized. But if you haven't done it in a while, like me, I was hauling mail and I was on designated routes, so I forgot a lot of stuff, A lot of stuff that I memorized, I forgot. Like here is Washington. And let's see. Hey, there's a Des Moines in Washington right there. Look at that. Okay, here's Kent. I've gone and picked up loads in Kent. I would drop off in the area somewhere like down here or whatever. And then I would have to go like in the Tacoma area, I believe. I'd go sit at a truck stop. But yeah, I spent a lot of time going up 84. Here's Interstate 5. Here's 90. Let's see, here's Portland, Oregon. I'd go to Portland a lot. But by looking at the map and seeing the towns you're going to go through, look at your maps and see where these places are at. Like if you're going to have a fuel stop somewhere, you can look up like the exit numbers for that and then go, if it says it's off of a highway, look for where the exit number is off of a highway. Like here's 82. You probably have, you know, if you're coming along 82 for some reason or 90, you look for the exit numbers and figure out where that truck stop is, and you can get references in your head of where things are at. Like in Virginia, how often, look at the states you're going to go through the most. Don't try to memorize the whole stupid road atlas, because you never will. The best way to remember stuff is just try to familiarize yourself with the areas you're going to a lot. Like I'm gonna be going to, oh, let me look here. Oh, come on. South Jordan, Utah. Let's see if I can find South Jordan without having to look it up. South Jordan, Utah. I know it's got to be is it gonna be something in big bold letters, or is it gonna be something or Spanish Fork? I'm just trying to look to see if it pops out at me or not. South Jordan. It's got to be close to Salt Lake City. West Jordan. So South Jordan's got to be in that same area as West Jordan. There's West Jordan, so South Jordan's got to be in the area. So it might be one of those things that just doesn't show up. So West, yep, let's look here. South Jordan. So this is where I'm gonna be dropping off, and I'm going to two different places in the area. South Jordan and then my next drop let me pull up my phone, because my phone let me pull up Doc Caller on my phone. Come on. Okay. So you want to familiar yourself on the map. Look at where you're going. And the more you look at that, that'll help you memorize stuff. You'll get the layout of the states. You'll get to know the country better the more places you go to around the country. And depending on which companies you work for will depend on how often you're going to different places. Different companies frequent different states and stuff. Like Bay and Bay kind of seems to go a lot of the same places depending on whether or not you're regional, whether you're on your dedicated lane or not. I just got on a lane to go from Utah to Illinois, back to Utah, back and forth. And let's see, dock hauler. Both place weird. Well, both my two stops are the same place. They said I had two different stop locations and that they're 17 miles away, but it's the same addresses. So what I was about to do doesn't work because they're the same place. So they have two stops at the same place. That makes no sense. So whatever. If you're going to like bigger cities, like areas that are very complicated, you can get to know the area by looking at the area. So use your map. Like, let's see, I know that in West Valley City, off of the 201, where's the 201? 48, 201. There is a service road. C.R. England is located off the 201 in West Valley City. They are somewhere in this area, but I haven't been there for so long that I don't remember the address. But I know they are off the 201 in West Valley City somewhere. So they're somewhere in this area. And let's see. I went to see if I can find it. This might not go far enough south on here. I went down to Springville. Springville is probably more farther south than this. Vermont. Okay. Springville. See, is Springville on here anywhere? That's Ogden. Provo might show Springville. So there is a Flying J right off that exit somewhere. And I don't remember exactly which exit it was, but I know that I was going to a place in Springville where there was a let's see if I can find 400 Street, Center Street, 1860 State, 600 Lakeview. Well, it's probably not going to show what I'm looking for. And a lot of times that is the case. The map will only show you so much, but you can learn quite a bit from looking at it. You can get a layout of where things are in the state. You memorize, like, where the state that you live in, you pretty much have memorized where things are kind of located around your state, where the big cities are and where your hometown is, whether or not you live in some small town somewhere or whether you're from the big city. Depending on how much traveling you have done before you become a truck driver, you may, what's this? This is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania usually has two sections to it, the western part and the eastern part. And there's a lot to Pennsylvania. Some states are that way, some states don't have as much. But I can't get this to go on here. Alright, you want to familiarize yourself with wherever you're going to a lot. Like I go to Minnesota a lot. Find Minnesota. So, and I'm usually in this area of Minnesota. Bloomington, where Mall of America is. Mall of America is in Bloomington. Apple Valley is where my Uncle Paul used to live. Farmington is where my uncle lives now. They have a farm with a few horses and stuff. They live there. My Uncle John used to live in Red Wing. Not sure where he lives now. But Northfield, I've gone to Northfield to pick up and deliver. St. Paul area, I've been over there to pick up. Let's see, Chanhassen is where I went to pick up that trailer yesterday and to bring it over to St. Paul to the Thermo King. And then St. Paul is where that bakery place that I've picked up loads before. And let's see if we can find other places I've been. Anoka, I've gone to Anoka to pick up loads. Let's see. Alright, now I took my eyes off the camera screen, and I am looking to see Shakopee. I think I did a load over to there, but Monticello, St. Cloud, I went to St. Cloud to, let's see. I went to St. Cloud to pick up or drop off a load before. Cold Spring, I went over to Cold Spring. Bay and Bay has some local guys that go back and forth from Cold Spring. So, there's that. Lake Mille Lacs. Used to live up in the Brainerd Baxter area up here. And in between the two, we had a campgrounds for the church up there, right between those two towns. But we would have to go up High 169 to Lake Mille Lacs and drive past a lot of this to Garrison, between Garrison and Brainerd. One of these lakes is Eagle Lake, off on one of these roads up here, which it's probably not going to show it. It's going to be a back road, smaller than this. But we had church campgrounds, right? There's Garrison, there's Brainerd, somewhere up in this area. Like halfway between the two was where we had church campgrounds. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, there's Albert Lee. Those of you that have been driving a lot know that Albert Lee, exit 11, which exit 11 doesn't even show. It's not even showing exit 11, but there's that Petro and Loves off of exit 11, and exit 13 is where you get on that 90 at. I believe it's exit 13, but they got so much going on. Minnesota is a very, very busy state. Look at all the towns and everything. But you get up north, it gets very, very beautiful with a lot of pine forests and stuff. Yeah, what you want to do is look at the different states that you go to a lot. Just try to look at the states that you're going to be in a lot. When you're going to a different, whatever states, look at different stuff, and remember that in most states, minus a couple exceptions, there is the exit numbers are how many miles across the state from the beginning of the state. Usually they start at number 1 from the west side and get to bigger until they get to the end of the state. So you can look here, and if you look at the last exit number, exit 227, and then you see that little number 6 right there, that means there's 6 miles from there to there. So there's 233 miles across that Utah of that highway. That's just of Highway 70. Highway 70 in Utah. So and there's Colorado. But yeah, you want to keep looking at the map at whatever state you go to and learn the areas you're going to and where things are at from each other. And as you learn the distances from stuff, try to memorize that stuff. By looking at it in the map, you'll help yourself remember where things are at in each state. Whatever states you're going to a lot, don't try to memorize stuff from places you're not going to until you're going there, because that's just a waste of your time, because there's no reason for you to remember it unless there's something meaningful, like you got family or friends over there and whatever you're trying to look up. Then that means that it's meaningful to you if you have friends or family in that state that you're trying to look up. That's a little different. But like, here's the state of Iowa where I live in. I'm pretty familiar with the state of Iowa. I've been all over this state of Iowa. And there's a lot of places I haven't been to, but there's a lot of places I've been over most of the state of Iowa. For one, I live there. For two, I've done a lot of trucking jobs where I've had to go pretty much all over the state. There's a lot of far corners of the state that I haven't been to. Like, some places I've been to like once, and some places I have never been to. Like, let's hope the map will stay put. Okay, I live, come on, in Ankeny. I live in Ankeny, which is right north of Des Moines. They're practically on top of each other anymore. Here's West Des Moines. We go over to, let's see if it even will show Jordan Creek where the mall is. There's Waukee, Polk City, Grimes. Does Jordan Creek show up? There's Adele. Fan meter coming. Pleasant Hill, I lived over there. Carlisle. Well, in the West Des Moines area, over in this area, south of the road, there is Jordan Creek Mall. And those of you from the area are probably familiar. But right in there, there's Jordan Creek, Johnston. But that's where I live. And I've driven up and down 80 over to Omaha. I've been up 29 to Sioux City. I think I've been, let's see, I've been to Lamar's for Randy's. I've gone through Storm Lake. I've driven a lot of these, like Highway 20 and Highway 30. There's Carroll, Iowa, where Randy's Diesel was at. And here's Highway 71, which you can take Highway 71 all the way down, and it'll take you through Missouri, and it will take you down through Kansas City and take you all the way down and get you on Interstate 49 or 44 or whatever that is, that heads south and takes you down by Joplin, Missouri area. And Yosho is not too far away from Joplin, Missouri. So, but by looking at the map, you can see where stuff is, like Des Moines to Marshalltown up to Waterloo. I used to do a run where I left Des Moines, went up 35, across 20 to get to Fort Dodge, and picked up or dropped off clean laundry stuff, and then loaded my truck up with the dirty and brought it back. I spent more time loading and unloading the truck than I ever did driving, because that's only was an hour and a half. And then I also did a run where I'd go up through Marshalltown, and I would take I tried to find different combination of ways to go, but I never could really beat my time. I could only do it. Took about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours to get up to Waterloo to their office when I worked at G&K. and it was either Fort Dodge or Waterloo. And driving between Waterloo and Fort Dodge is got to be one of the longest drives ever. It is so boring through there, there's not a whole lot to see. Here's Kansas, Topeka, Wichita. You got to go through all this. So you got to look at your map. You got to, look this stuff up and familiarize yourself with different stuff, and then look at the other stuff in this map, because you got things in your road atlas that help you with low clearances. You can look up a road and see if there's a low clearance in that road in a state. You've got in the front of there, you got it'll tell you restricted routes, low clearances in locations in different states on different roads, and restrictions like some places you can drive your truck on that highway, but you have to have your tandem set a certain way, and you might have to have a permit to drive on it. And if you get caught, you'll get a big hefty fine if you don't have things set right and if you don't have a permit. So there's all kinds of things like that. When you get your route or your loads, you've got to look up your stuff. What happened here? Alright, my dash got messed up from the road atlas. It moved things, and anyway, as you get your loads and you get told you need to go pick up in a town, you may or may not be able to find that town on the map depending on what it is. So you might have to request customer directions so that you know where that is, because you'll get a clue. You'll get off of exit whatever, off of what a certain highway, and then you can look at your map and look at it and see what it's trying to have you do. And chances are you're not going to be able to follow every little tiny road to get to most places you're going to go to on that map, but that road atlas will help you get the big picture. First, you can, I'm sure that you had to look at a map when you were in your trucking school, and you had to look at the big map of the United States, and you had to figure out like where you're starting from. If you're starting from a certain big city, whether or not you're in some area of that city, and you're trying to get to another big city in a whole nother state where you might have to cross one or several other states to get there, depending on how far your route is taking you. First thing you want to do is first get the big picture and see, especially when you're new, you want to look at that big map and look at, okay, I'm going to start here and I'm trying to get here on the US map. Let's do this. Where is the big map of the United States here? Is it in the back, or do you gotta go in the front? Because there usually is. In the beginning somewhere. Maybe it's in the back. Maybe you have to go to It's British Columbia. Somewhere you should have in this thing the map of the whole United States. So you can look at every state, and then it's so jumbled up that you can't really. I'll show you as soon as I find it. I'm kind of surprised. Okay. Somewhere you will have a map of the whole United States. Usually, I'm not finding it. There we go. I found it. Is it going to stay? So, here is the big, and I got so much glare on here, I'm sorry. But, like, I'm over here in Illinois, off of, there's St. Louis. I'm not in St. Louis, Illinois. We're up here by Chicago area, Remington, Bloomington. It's 55. Where's Interstate 80? Right now, I'm like right in this area. So I'm going from here. I'm gonna be taking 80 across through Omaha, across through here, going this way. Sometimes you think that some highways don't feel like they go east and west, but when you actually look at a map, you can see why interstates are labeled east and west and north and south, when sometimes they don't feel like they go that way. But when you look at a map, like here's 84. 84 I always felt like we were just going north. You do go north, but you're going mostly west or east, but you're going northwest or southeast. Okay? And that's kind of the way a lot of interstates go. 80 kind of takes you from the southwest, because let's see, here's 80. 80 takes you to the southwest by Sacramento area and Oakland, which it's hard to see that. Sacramento and San Jose and all that. If you look, that's over there, and 80 takes you all the way across. 80 will take you 80, 90. It's easy to lose track. 80 all the way over to New York. So once you figure out the states you're going through state by state, then you can look at each state in order to see kind of what that's going to look like. So we can go to Illinois and look at Illinois. Indiana, let's see, here's Illinois, like we were just looking at. And then it's just a matter of finding Like, a lot of you know that, like, St. Louis is known for being in Missouri, but it's right on the edge of Missouri, and it's right next to Illinois. Did you know that it's on the edge of Missouri, and when you after you go through St. Louis, you're going to be in Illinois? Probably something not everybody realizes or knows. Springfield is where my dad lives near, and he said he lives in a town called Bolivar, which is either, you think did he say it was north or south of it? Wonder if I can find it. Never visited him there. But no idea. But it's supposed to be up in this area, he said. He said he was somewhere an hour north, an hour south of Springfield, Missouri. And Bolivar sounded like it was a really small town. Bartonville. So 72, you're 70, 64. Let's see. Let's see if I can look it up. Bolivar, J11. Mississippi, Missouri. Okay. J11. Ah, right there. So that's how you can look stuff up, but you're not always going to find every city. Not every city will come up in your map. You will find that. you're not always going to be able to find everything. But I found it right there, and it's even in bold. And it's north of Springfield, up 13. Not too far off of Interstate 44. So there you go. Gotta learn how to look stuff up. If you can't find, you can look up the name of the city in the back on the list like that, and it'll give you a letter and a number to cross-reference. A letter over here and a number over here. You just got to look on that map in that state, and then you gotta zero in on it and look around in that little area, and then you can look at what roads take you to that spot. Most of your customers are going to have customer directions in that you can either request, or they automatically send you the customer directions. CR England and CRST always sent me customer directions automatically. Bay and Bay has never sent me customer directions. I've just put the address in my GPSs and just let it take me there. And if I couldn't find it in my trucker's GPS, I found it in Google Maps, usually, and gone there. There was only one time I looked up customer directions, and that was only because I was trying to see what the customer directions were for getting to a place that I had found, but it was in Chicago, here, right up, not very far from where I'm at now, and there was a 13.6 labeled bridge, and you can make it underneath it in the Bay and Bay truck, but it is like this for space. I mean, it looks like you're gonna be rubbing your trailer on the bottom of that bridge. It's a railroad track bridge, and I made it. All the other bridges on the other streets for that bridge, that where it was going across on all the streets to the left and right of that, where that bridge went over all those other streets, the other streets were labeled 14-2, but that bridge on that street to get to that customer, it was called some sort of wedding, whatever. I can't remember the name of it. I could probably look it up here. Maybe. It was called Wedding. Not the big deal. I don't have to look this up, but I kind of want to. Newlyweds Foods in Chicago. That's what it's called, Newlyweds Foods. And if you ever have to go there, there is a 13.6 bridge in order to get there, and you can make it underneath. But it is very close. Very close. But in the old days, you didn't have a cell phone, you didn't have GPSs, and you know, when I became a truck driver, all we had was Qualcomm at CR England, and there was only Qualcomm at CRST, and so most of the companies I've worked for have had Qualcomm. Alan Ritchie had stopped using Qualcomm by the time I got there, and they were using PeopleNet to start with. They had an old PeopleNet, and they were converting over to that. So when I started there, we were using paper logs and ELD at the same time, but they hadn't really converted over to the computerized logs yet. And then eventually we stopped using paper logs altogether. But getting tired. Used to be that all you had was a road atlas, exit guides, and if you were lucky, you had some decent customer directions off the Qualcomm to follow, and you needed to call the customers, the shippers and receivers, to confirm those directions. Most of the time you never did, unless you were having problems finding the place, and then you would call them. And at CR England, you could call it could call the phone number you got, and it would get you hold of the customer. At CRST, you never got phone numbers for customers. You had customer directions, and the phone number on there was for the broker that set that load up. And if you tried to call that number, if anybody did answer, they were no help, because you were trying to go to somewhere out in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or something, or anywhere else in the country, and they were probably somebody sitting at an office down in Texas or California or something, and had no clue how to get to the place. They were no help to you whatsoever finding the place. So you were stuck using your GPS, your cell phone. Well, you couldn't call them. You were stuck using those customer directions and praying and hoping that the customer directions were accurate. And sometimes they were accurate, but they were taking you into the place from the wrong direction. So not the directions they were telling you to do were funny looking, because when you were trying to go there, it was taking you coming into the city from a completely different direction. So it could be having you take completely different exits and roads to get to the place. If you were lucky, some of the places had numbers you could call, and they would have directions. There was a place south of Cedar Rapids that we'd pick up sometimes, and I'm trying to remember the name of the place, but at that place they had directions on their phone system that if you had a number, you could get customer directions, and they would ask you which direction you were coming from, and they would give you directions coming from north, or if you were coming from the north, they'd tell you how to get there. If you're coming from the south, they'd tell you how to get there, west or east. It had all four of them on there, and so you could go pick up that load, and you'd have directions to get in there, and they were accurate. Some companies out there, some places you're going to go pick up or deliver to, have that, and you can do that, and you can write down the directions and get in there. I have yet to do that here at Bay and Bay. I haven't had to do it. I've been able to just throw in my my addresses to everywhere, and 98% of the time I've been able to get there. There's only been a few places that I haven't been able to find, and the places I haven't been able to find through the GPS and get there just by GPS, Google Maps was able to get me there. But you really got to watch yourself when you do that, because it's not programmed for your truck. It doesn't know that you're a big old truck and can't go down low clearance bridges and stuff like that. So oftentimes Google Maps will take you down places and you'll be able to get there just fine. But when you get into certain areas, you gotta be careful, because Google Maps will try to take you the way a car can go, not the way a truck can go. That's the difference. So if you're going to use Google Maps to route yourself around the country, be prepared, because you will have a lot of messed up places you're going to have to turn around, because it's trying to tell you to turn in inappropriate places. And one thing you will want to do is every so often look at the way it's taking you and see if it's taking you off onto back highways instead of taking you interstate, and there's interstates close. You may want to take those interstates and let it recalculate as you go down the different way, so that you can avoid any problems with restricted roads, low clearances, and places that you just don't want to wind up in an 18-wheeler, where there might be low-hanging wires, low bridges, there might be tight roads that aren't designed for you that you might not be able to turn on, and you might find yourself backing down a road several miles to be able to finally turn left or right to get onto a road to get out of there, and then have to go a completely different way to get places. So don't do that. I have not found any exit guides, but one of the advantages of today of having your phone, a smartphone, and having a GPS is being able to quickly look places to go and park or fuel or whatever. You can program, you can find the nearest Catskill a lot quicker. You can find the nearest truck stops a lot quicker. You can find the nearest restaurants and anything a lot quicker than you can by trying to use an exit guide. Because an exit guide, you're trying to look specifically down every single exit to see what's off that exit, and then you got to go take the time to see if you can take that exit in a truck on either your road atlas or Googling to see if you can take that way. The good thing about looking at the map all the time when you're doing all that, if you're only looking at the GPS and what it's trying to tell you to do, and if you're not sometimes using the zoom in, zoom out, just like this, you can zoom out. I don't even know where I have this thing programmed for right now. Then you can slide this around, I think this is for, oh, that's for the pilot, I believe, that I went to. There was the Loves. What do I have this program for? I don't remember. Oh wait, I've got a program for my next pickup. That's what I got it programmed for. I got a program for I believe Rochelle. Yeah. Rochelle, Illinois. And there's a Catskill Petro, and there's a Loves right up there. So this is what you want to do. Try not to get this thing all turned around on you. There we go. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm going to pick up. Hopefully I'll be able to go pick up something up tomorrow, or they'll let me pick up early. So take advantage of zooming out and getting the big picture. Okay? Take advantage of this. Because I'm going to be going across through here and down to here. Through here, across Wyoming, yeah, down to there, to Salt Lake City. So take advantage of those zoom in, zoom out so you can see. And like I've said in other videos, when you are especially when you're brand new, get you a book like this and write down, look at the map, and practice writing down old school way of routing yourself to at least the closest big city to where you're picking up or dropping off, and write down. What you want to do is write down each highway you're going to take, each interstate or highway you're going to take. Try to write down how many miles, look up how many miles it's going to be in each state. If you're going to change a highway, write down where you're going to be exchanging that highway. Is it going to be in a certain city? When you get into a city, if you're going to be changing it to a different highway, like if you get out there to Salt Lake City and you're on I-80, are you going to be switching highways and taking 84 and going west, northwest, up towards Idaho and Oregon and Washington and stuff, or are you heading over to I-15 to go south towards Las Vegas, or are you gonna stay on 80 and go over and catch Interstate 5 and down or something? What cities do you change highways in? How many miles are you gonna be on that particular highway before you switch? Where are you stopping for fuel and where are you stopping for brakes? You got to plan all that out and write it down, write down exit numbers. And by writing all that stuff down, you will start to memorize stuff, I promise you, instead of just relying heavily on the GPS. You can do that, but you're going to handicap yourself a lot. And That's what I've been doing, and I've been handicapping myself. There's a lot of stuff I don't remember. Do I know how to do it? Yes. Have I been doing it? No. Okay? And there's a difference. I just haven't done it in a while because I haven't had to do it, because I've been doing a lot of dedicated routes and hauling mail, and I went to all the same fuel stops, same exit numbers, same highways, same, swapping trailers in the same locations, very rarely changed. Pick up mail at the bulk mail center in Des Moines and just haul my butt across 80 and go down 76 towards Denver and across the mountains to swap with another driver, or all the way out to Las Vegas, or whatever I was doing depending on which route I was on. Hauling mail, there's certain things that was good about it. You got used to jumping your butt in the truck and getting going and just going, and you didn't stop unless you were stopping to swap out with your co-driver, or if you're stopping to switch trailers, or you're stopping to do your fuel stop. And normally we would make our fuel stops also our half-hour break, and we would work our half-hour break in with our fuel stop. But you have to know how to work the fuel pump area to take your half-hour break and not be in everybody's friggin' way. When you show up and you know you gotta take a half-hour break, most of the time we were stopping at like Grand Island, Boselman's in the middle of the night, and it usually wasn't that busy, and we could stop and mess around on our phones for a while, wait for 5-10 minutes, and then get out and fuel, and then pull our truck up, then go in, get our fuel receipt, dick around in the store for a while, getting drinks if we wanted to, or doing whatever, and then coming back out. And if you know how to space your time out between, we're gonna call it the ABC of the fuel pump area, the area behind the trucks that are fueling. If you know you're gonna take a break and you're at a truck stop that's busy, don't go to the closest pumps, number one. Number two, get behind someone that looks like they just showed up and just getting started, so that you can pull behind them. I don't care if you got open pumps next to you. When you're trying to get your half-hour break in, you got to know how to play the game of getting your half-hour break in, so that you can get your half-hour break in during your fuel stop, because it helps you save time, so that you don't have to stop again just to take a half-hour break. And that's how you make better times. Okay? It's part of time management, of keeping your fuel stops and your half-hour breaks the same thing as much as possible. Okay? It's not always easy with over the road, because sometimes your fuel stops are going to be well before. You want to make your fuel stops out over 3 hours away. When you first start driving, you want your fuel stops to be at least over 3 hours down the road, so that when you stop, you've been driving for over 3 hours. If you do it less than 3 hours, you're going to be stopping to take a half-hour break before you have to swap out with your co-driver, or get to wherever you're trying to get to. You'll be stopping a second time and wasting your time and prolonging how long it's taking you to get somewhere. So it's part of time management to learn how to do that. Learn how to work the truck stops to your advantage when you need to get your half-hour breaks in. If you're in a hurry and you're trying to stop and fuel and get the heck out of there really quick, then you go to the open pump that has nobody in front of it. It doesn't matter if it's the closest pump to the building or the one furthest away. You go to the open pump that no one is in front of, pull up to that pump. Hopefully you're pulling up to that truck stop, to that fuel island when it's not real busy, because if you show up to a truck stop that's on and having a big old rush of trucks and everybody's in each other's way because everybody's trying to fuel and everybody's trying to get out of there, everybody's trying to fuel, get their drinks, get the heck out of there. Some of them are trying to do half-hour breaks and they're trying to work the fuel island to their advantage to be able to get their half-hour break in, fuel, and then pull up. So if you do like 5-10 minutes before the fuel pump, 5-10 minutes fueling, and then pull up to the pay lane and go over. That's how you work it, folks. Something along that. And then you're not being a bonehead, being in people's way if you're doing it the right way. And you just got to be careful, because you get those guys that are in a big old hurry to fuel and get the heck out of there, and you're trying to discourage yourself from being in people's way. You're trying to pull into the fuel island and do what you got to do. Say you got a fuel and cat scale and all that 9 yards, and in most cases, if it's daytime at a truck stop, there's usually a place you can go park. A lot of times you can just get away with pulling around back to the fuel island and stopping to go in to get your catskill ticket without being in anybody's way. Most generally, but you gotta be mindful and pay it. You gotta read the truck stop, read the trucks coming in and stuff. And if you happen to be able to see a place you can pull off to the side where you're not in anybody's way, up against the curb, not kind of at the fuel island, but not in a fuel island, kind of. A lot of times there's those places off to the left or the right at a truck stop that's up against the curb where you're not in the truckers' way that are trying to fuel and stuff. Or a lot of times there's, depending on the truck stop, there might be, you can pull right ahead into a parking space, or there is easy to get to truck parking spots sometimes. So depending on the truck stop will depend on it, because if there are some truck stops that are constantly busy. A lot of Loves and Flying J's are very busy. You kind of hit and miss with Petros and TAs, and it all depends on location, because some Loves are busy all the time and some Loves are only busy, they just have peak rushes, and in between those you're usually pretty fine. And if you're showing up in the middle of the night, a lot of times the only place you can park, do stuff, is at the fuel island. And you gotta try to be mindful. Remember that most truck drivers are lazy and they're trying to go to the closest pump to the building. If you take the initiative to not be afraid to walk a little bit farther and park over at the farthest fuel island, and depending on what you're doing, if you're only going in to get a catskill, you're not going to be in there very long, but a few minutes, it's not a big deal. But if you're going to be going in and you got to use the bathroom and you're going to be grabbing drinks and you're going to be getting food, stuff like that, then you got to pay attention to what's going on in the truck stop, to be courteous to the other people around you as to how you're going to work your time, where you're parked at, and it's managing your time so you're not getting in people's way. And sometimes you can show up and a truck stop is just dead. There's like no trucks at the fuel island. You pull up, you get fuel, and then there's nobody at the pumps even when you get done fueling. But then you go in, you grab your fuel receipt, you go use the bathroom, you get some stuff, you come out, and there's 50 billion trucks at the fuel island. All of a sudden you go move your truck up and do whatever you're doing. And so you just got to read the truck stop, and you're not always going to read it right, because you're going to think that you got plenty of time because they're not busy, but by the time you get back out, all of a sudden it's busy. It happens all the time. So you gotta try to be as quick as possible about utilizing the fuel island area at a truck stop. If there is no parking anywhere else, you gotta take advantage of any possible way you can stay out of other truckers' way by pulling off to the side somewhere where you're not in anybody's way, trying to get around. You're not parking in front of other trucks. You're not blocking the fuel island. You're not blocking the Catskills. You're not blocking anything. You're not blocking the fuel delivery trucks at like the Love's tankers coming in at the Love's or Flying J or whatever you're at. Look for those areas that you might be able to pull off out of the way if you're not fueling. So, managing your time is very important, and if you can try to get your dispatcher to get you on mostly dropping hooks or all dropping hooks, it is a heck of a lot easier to keep yourself moving. And if you drive mostly nights instead of driving daytime, it'll be a lot easier for you to find parking at truck stops, and it'll be a lot easier to have the pick of the litter of parking spots. You can even find close spots a lot easier during the morning and afternoon time, because between 7 and 11 is about the worst time at night you can look for a place to park. In most places, that is the peak time for truck drivers to be looking for places to park. Between 7 and 11 is the worst peak time. Between those 4 hours is the busiest time at truck stops for truckers to be in each other's way, trying to hurry up and get into a spot before they're all gone. Because if you're looking for a spot to park like after midnight, after 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, or first thing in the morning, when truckers are waking up and getting back on the road, you gotta figure if most drivers are trying to park between 7 and 11, think of 10 hours later. What's 10 hours later? If they parked around, we'll say 7 o'clock, they're going to be ready around 5 in the morning to take off and get going again. So just depending on how early truckers got into the truck stop and got their butt parked and started their 10-hour break, will depend a lot on when a lot of drivers are going to be leaving out of those truck stops. So with a little bit of patience, you might be able to get a good spot if you can park off to the side. And if you're patient, depending on what time of the evening is, you might be able to catch somebody leaving and go grab that spot before someone else jumps on it and gets in there before you. So you just gotta be very patient, vigilant, and just know how the truck stops work. Know whether you're dealing with a truck stop that is extremely busy 24/7 and whether or not it's a truck stop that's not so busy all the time. Those are kind of like, there's a reason why some truck stops are constantly busy and everybody's going to them, because they probably got good food choices. They probably, they might be a Love's with, they got the rewards and the showers and stuff. But you also got to remember, if everybody's going there, it's going to be harder for you to find a spot if you don't get there at the right times. And then you really got to manage your time to get places at, you don't want to be showing up when everybody else is. And you might want to seek out truck stops. Go try to get like your showers and stuff at those places like Love's. A lot of people are getting a lot of Love's fuel stops, like I do, because they have some of the best fuel prices a lot of the times. Not always, but they tend to have the best rewards and stuff. And it's just all around, they're one of the best truck stops, hands down. They're the cleaner truck stops, and problem is they're more popular, so everybody else is trying to go there. So you might want to try to get your shower in there, but then go try to park at a not so popular truck stop where there's less crap going on and you don't have to worry about fighting the other trucks to get into spots, to get to the fuel island, to do whatever. And if you showing up at the right times, you will be able to get good spots. So I was pretty lucky getting into that Love's down the road here where I just tried to go most of the time. But I showed up at the wrong time tonight. For one, it's like a Thursday night. We're getting close to the weekend. There's truckers getting ready to start like 34-hour resets, and they're getting into spots. And then I was there between 6 and 7. I was getting there, but it is what it is. If you're not showing up at these places at the right times, it's gonna suck. It really is. It's gonna suck. You're not gonna be able to get into a spot unless you're extremely lucky and a trucker just happens to be leaving. You just happen to show up at the right time and you can just jump into a good parking spot, because I've been able to find a lot of good spots. Like last night I showed up in the wee hours in the morning and there was 3 spots right up close to the building at the TA, and there's people parked all over like the curbs and all kinds of stuff. But I showed up after 2-3 in the morning, and so some truckers had left and I was able to get into their spots. Problem is, it was a little bit tighter backing job because of the trucks parked up against the curb of the sleeping truckers who had parked up against the curb. I could get in there, I can back, I can back like no other, but I was also tired, which if you're tired, you want to be real careful. I started for one spot and I decided not to do it because I just felt like I was going to hit the guy on the passenger side. You always want to get closer on your driver's side when you're backing and curl your trailer tires around the hood of the truck you're trying to back around into a spot, and you want to kind of hug that truck and then swing that into the trailer, right? And if you can get out a little ways with your trailer so you can kind of hook, in a way I would say it's kind of hooking, you kind of backing at an angle, but then you can kind of hook in so you go in at a straighter angle and then can straighten out in there easier. It's much easier to back in that way than if you're stuck up, crammed up against a truck up at the curb, we parked against the curb, and then you're at a weird awkward angle because it's hard to set up when you've got tight trucks everywhere and you're trying to get into an open spot. And if you're at an awkward angle and you're trying to get it in, sometimes you just got to know when to give up on a parking spot, even though it's in a prime location, and just go for the next best prime location, which is what I did. I was starting to go for one spot and it just felt like I just had a bad feeling. So I pulled out of it and went to a spot 3 trucks down from that spot and backed in there. For one, the lighting was better in that spot and I had a lot more room in that spot to back in. Plus I had more pull-up room because there was a space between the trucks up against the curbs that I was able to utilize to get a better angle into that spot. So parking and routing and doing all this stuff just takes experience. The longer you do it, the better you will be. Try to memorize as much as you can. Write down the stuff. Look at your maps. But don't try to memorize more than what you need to. If you're not going to certain states, there's no reason for you to try to study the states that you're not going to, because it's going to be meaningless to you and you're not going to retain it anyway unless you're going there. Try to get familiar with areas that you know you're going to be going to a lot, and if you're going to an area, look at the map, look at all those areas, look at the highways you're going to, look up your truck stops, see where those truck stops are going to be, see how those are on the map, and you can kind of start figuring out why your company is giving you fuel stops to where they are. And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they'll make sense, but there are times. So what are any stuff I haven't covered yet? Just be real careful when you're out there. Don't try to do stupid things. Don't try to become an expert blindside backer, because there is no such thing as being good at a blindside back. Don't be those guys that come in and will whip out a blindside back and check out the trucks of those guys that do that look like they're doing that all the time, and tell me if you don't see damage on their trucks, missing bumpers, missing panels on their truck, missing wings on their sleeper berth, and banged up stuff on their truck. If they don't have it now, they're probably going to, because they be hitting stuff. They're the impatient guys that they're trying so hard to get into, beat other truckers into the good spots or the open spots. Just don't worry about it. If you can't find a spot at a truck stop, go to where, like I did here. I couldn't get a parking spot at the Loves or the Pilot, and a lot of these places around here want to charge for parking, and I'm not gonna go pay for parking if I don't have to. I came here to the place I'm delivering at in the morning, and I'm going to have plenty of time. I'm gonna get plenty of sleep. I'll be able to back up. I'll be able to creep my truck over to the dock, to whatever dock they have me go to over here, and I'll just go slow and back into the dock. They'll unload me. I'll be trying to get my next load done, so I don't have to sit on it, because they got me a load not till it's Thursday evening, and tomorrow's gonna be Friday. My pickup isn't till Saturday, and it's not due out Salt Lake City area until the 11th. And I'm just like, I'd rather pick it up tomorrow. I'm gonna try to pick it up tomorrow and get my butt across the country. So, playing with my seat here. That's kind of some tips and tricks and stuff for you new guys. Any of you guys that have been driving a while might want to add to whatever I have said. I have no idea how long this video is. I've been talking and jibber jabbering for a while, and I know I've repeated myself quite a bit, but that is a good thing, because the more you hear me say something, the more it might stick and the more you might remember it. So the more often you're going places, try to remember how you did stuff, the roads you took. Remember landmarks. Remember things that were around the corners, like gas stations or stores or unique landmarks. Try to remember things that are unique to the area that no other place has. What is unique about the areas that you're going to, so that as you repeatedly come back to areas, you will be less of a slave to your GPS and will be able to count on knowing for sure with confidence that you know how to get to a place where you don't even have to look at your map or even program your GPS, because they give you're going to go from this place which you've been to before, and then you're taking the load you pick up there to a place you've been to before, where you don't even have to put anything in your GPS because you know exactly where you're going. You know where you're going to go. You know where the closest cat scale is and how to get there. You know the road you're going to take, and you just go. And the only thing you got to do is you might have to look up a place to pull over if for whatever reasons your timings are a little bit different. You know which road you're taking, but you might have to stop sooner or whatever, because something might be different this time than it was last time. But you will know basically what you got to do and how to get there. You just might have to make adjustments to what you're doing based upon the circumstances of what's going on this time as per the last times you did the same thing. So, most stuff in truck driving is common sense and simple stuff. It just takes time to get used to doing stuff. You will become to the point after driving for a while. It is the same reason why drivers suffer from complacency. Complacency is when you get too comfortable in the truck and you start not having that little bit of fear and respect of the truck, and you are so comfortable behind the wheel of the truck that you start doing unsafe practices because you're letting your guard down, because you now think that you have things so under control in the truck. You feel that your skills have reached the level of driving behind that truck that you have lost your fear and respect. The right level of fear and respect is something you want to keep forever. You want to fear being unprofessional and getting into accidents. You want to respect your limitations as a driver and the limitations of your truck to the point that you're making good decisions. So if you're doing unsafe things behind the wheel, texting and driving, a lot of us have done texting and driving. A lot of drivers have started watching videos while going down the road. I try to put on YouTube videos and listen to music through my headset, and then I'm not so apt to watch the phone. I just gotta hit skip and stuff every so often. But YouTube is basically like my radio. It is a way of having my music and then keeping my eyes on the road more. And you want to, especially while you're new, you don't want to be doing stuff like that. You want to keep your eyes on the road, because you want to be memorizing where landmarks are. You want to know, okay, when I see this very unique looking area, such as an area with if you're driving down the interstate and there is like, there's certain stores that are unique named, unique points of interest, or things that you only see in, there. It's like the only one of its kind. There'll be like a very unique looking barn or house or building or farm or something that's not gonna probably change in a while, that's very solid in its location, that it will always be there until someday, some year, it might get taken away or torn down or whatever. But you look for those things, landmarks, the roads, the exit numbers, the truck stops, the houses, the barns, the maybe certain kinds of mountain rocks and stuff. What have you. There's just unique places out there that along each road, like statues out in the middle of nowhere, and things like that. There's some very beautiful places around the country, and where you will only see certain types of scenery in certain places. And it is important and very cool and fun to see the different scenery around the country as you get to know it, and to know where you're going and what kind of stuff you're going to be dealing with. And the longer you're truck driving, the more you'll memorize, okay, when I'm going through this state on these roads, I'm going to be dealing with these type of roads where I'm going to be dealing with mountains. I'm going to be dealing with busy, windy roads. I'm going to have tunnels here. I'm going to be driving by lakes here. I'm going to be driving past a place with a bunch of alpacas. I'm going to be driving, there's a buffalo overlook pass over at this place. There's these very unique set of tunnels that I'm going to be driving through. Different things around the country that you're going to get familiar with that will help you to memorize things, and will help you know, okay, when I see this, I know I'm getting close. Like, I know that I'm getting close to the end of there's a set of tunnels out there, and I can't remember if it's on the Utah side or the Wyoming side, but I know when I see that set of tunnels on the far end of Wyoming or the beginning of Utah, that I am getting close to not being too much farther away from Salt Lake City, and I know I'm only a couple hours away at that point. There's certain things that are just things that it's different for everybody. What is meaningful to you and what you're gonna memorize and what's gonna stick out to you in your mind is gonna be different for everybody, because you have your own reasons for why something sticks out to you more than others. Like unique looking windmills and a very unique truck stop. There might be a TA Petro or a Love's that's very different than most of them, that has a very unique parking lot. So you're going to memorize that. Maybe you have a good or bad experience somewhere that sticks out in your mind, that gives you a memory, that it reminds you of a mistake you made or a good experience you may have had, or for whatever reason something happened while you were there that made you remember. Maybe you had a very unique conversation with somebody at that truck stop that you just sticks out in your mind, and whenever you drive past that place you remember, yeah, that's where I talked to that one weird dude and blah 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 blah, or that's where I saw that really cute chick, or that's whatever. I mean, whatever is meaningful to you. There could be anything, but when you're new to truck driving, you got to really pay attention to what's going on and try to work on trying to keep your professionalism from the beginning. When I first started truck driving, I refused to use the cruise control, and because I always felt like if I don't use the cruise control, if I ever fall asleep behind the wheel driving a manual transmission, hopefully the truck will start jerking or whatever when it gets too low on speed, and it'll wake me up before I drive off the road and ditch the truck or something, you know? And that was kind of my mentality, where I would do things I had certain things I would do just to keep myself in line. It used to be that if I didn't have my seatbelt on, my headlights on while I was driving, and if I wasn't sitting to where my legs were, straight across and my legs straight down, and if I wasn't sitting, straight up and down, if I wasn't holding both hands on the wheel, I had all kinds of things that in my mind, if I wasn't doing this and that, I didn't feel like I was being a professional truck driver, and it bothered the crap out of me. And since then, I have gone through everything that most other drivers had. I've been driving for 23 years. I have made mistakes. I have had my backing mistakes. I have had my routing mistakes. I'm still making mistakes to this day, but I make more of the minor mistakes, not so much of the big mistakes. Most of the mistakes I make are pretty petty. Like a few days ago when I parked at the Hooters out in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and luckily I instinctually knew to park ahead at the end of the car parking lot area, because I knew that I didn't think anybody was going to show up. I really didn't. I figured I was safe, that I had never seen cars parked there before. I had been to that parking lot many times in the past, and I had never seen it fill up with cars. I had been on the back side of that Horseshoe Casino many times and have never seen a bunch of cars there. So I was going off of past experiences, and had I thought cars would show up, I would have not parked as close as I could in that lot, just to make my walk a little less over to the Hooters across the street. I would have parked on the other far end of the lot where the cars weren't parking, because they only came up and parked up to the closest spots to the little businesses that were around there. Like, I don't even know what all they are, but they're not part of the casino, but they're part of the stuff on the back side of that Horseshoe Casino and whatever else is in that area right behind there. And so they're not as popular places, so you normally don't see a lot of vehicles back there. They got huge parking lot areas back there, and they just don't really seem to ever fill up. So it's the perfect place to park a truck and go into Hooters. It could have been worse if I hadn't instinctually decided, okay, well, just in case, I'm going to pull up to the end of the row so that no one will park in front of me, so I don't get blocked in by having cars parked in front of me and in back of me. I parked on the left side, so I had a clear shot on my driver's side, and I didn't really think about it that much. It was just instinctually from being a truck driver. And cars parked over here, but they had a good 5 feet between the side of me and their parking spots, because I parked towards the edge of where like the rear bumpers of the cars would be. So I parked on that edge there, and I parked as far forward on that row to cover up the last or first spot closest to those businesses. So I knew that if cars did show up, I might still have a chance of being able to get out. And I did. I had plenty of room, and it wasn't nearly as tight as I thought it was when I was first trying to think about getting out. When I woke up, I was like, oh crap, because I parked there the night before and there was no cars. Just a few trailers on the far end of the lot dropped. So you got to think about all those little nuances when you're doing things as a truck driver, and with experience you will just instinctually know, okay, I better think about this. If I'm going to park here and I'm not going to a regular truck stop, or if I'm not parking in a place necessarily designed for trucks, I got to think about what's the worst case scenarios of this situation and take steps to try to help yourself out in case things like what happened to me happen. And it worked out that time, but it could have been, what if cars said screw it and decided to park right in front of me even though it wasn't even a spot there? It happens. What if I'd have been blocked in from all around? So, but a lot of the times when you park places, people in cars will try to avoid parking near you because they don't want you to wind up hitting their vehicle, so they will try to park what they feel is a safe distance from you, and they're not going to try to block you in a semi because they know that if you're trying to leave and their car is in your way, that you might hit their vehicle, and they don't want to have to deal with all the insurance and accident reports, whatever, if you wind up trying to move your truck and wind up hitting them. They don't want to have to deal with that. So most of the time, cars are going to try to park a distance away from you, what they feel safe. So, but anyway, I am getting really tired. I've been yawning in this video, and this video is probably extremely long. I have no idea how long this video is, but I've been rambling and going over a lot of the same stuff. But experience teaches you the things that you need to do. But study your maps, but just only study the things that you need to as you need to. Memorize the things, the places that you're going to a lot. Try to remember the good places that you want to remember, the good parking places that you know. And as you go around to different areas, like when you're dropping your loads and picking up loads, memorize those areas so that if you wind up in a position like I did tonight where you weren't able to find a spot at a truck stop, think about the areas, the industrial areas where you might be able to go to park your truck instead. Because I was able to take advantage of coming back to here to deliver in the morning, and I can just sleep here and be fine. Excuse me. But try to remember any places that you might be able to take advantage of in the future as you're going to different places that you're picking up freight and dropping off freight. If it's places that you know that you might have to go to again, if you're still working for the same company, you probably go to a lot of the same areas, different customers and stuff, but you will repeat the same pickups and drop places. After a while, you'll be going to a lot of places that you've been to before. So try to memorize places that you can park. Try to memorize where you can go take advantage of not only being able to park somewhere for your 10-hour break, and especially if it's a place that has bathroom access. Then the longer you drive, when you first get started, you're probably not going to have a lot on your truck. You may not have a CB yet. You may not have a microwave or any of that jazz yet. So you got to start prioritizing each, as you get your paychecks, what kind of items are you going to bring onto the truck to help you? When are you going to be able to afford get that GPS? When are you going to be able to get that CB? When can you get a headset if you don't already have one? You know, because a headset's around 120, 150 bucks for a decent one. A good GPS is about 300, 400, 500 maybe, depending on which one you get. And then different appliances like microwaves, the burn stove to go, the different things you gotta buy just to make your job easier. Air gauges, 50-foot air hoses, tread depth gauges, which I'm gonna do a video on why I think a tread depth gauge is a waste of money and time, because I'll tell you right now, you should be replacing and having your tires replaced long before you get your tread depth down to where it is illegal. If you ever take a tread depth gauge and see what 4 30-seconds or 2 30-seconds are, which are the legal treads of tires between your steers and your trailers and drives and stuff. If you see how bald your tires are by the time they get down to that, you should have been replacing those tires long before that. And I think companies have gotten better, because I've been noticing I don't see a lot of trucks that I've been driving the last several years. A lot of companies are getting better about replacing their tires a lot sooner, and you're not seeing as many tires. It used to be that you'd go pick up trailers and a lot of trailers had like really messed up treads on them, and now you might see some cupping and stuff, but for the most part, truck tires on the trucks and on trailers too, seems like companies are being more diligent about changing their tires out than what they used to. They're putting better lights on their equipment. They're just doing things better. Maybe it's just the companies I've been driving for, I don't know, but it just seems like places are getting a little bit better about doing stuff to keep their trucks out of the shops as much. And then it's just truckers needing to get better training from when they get trainers and things like that. Things that you will want to know as a truck driver. You want to know how to chain. You want to know how to do a proper pre-trip to check what to look for. You want to check top things to look for. Your lights and tires are the first things going to get you pulled into a scale. If you have an ABS light on or something like that, any marker lights that and be out might get you pulled in. And then you start wanting to look for whether you got your tandem set right, whether you have your weights leveled out on your truck, and then it's You know, having a bunch of crap on your dash. Try to keep your dash clear. Don't have too much on your dash. Keep your truck clean. Keep your other things. You just try to keep your mirrors and windows clean, not only on the outside but on the inside. I need to clean the inside of my windshield and try to do it without leaving all that streaks and having that glare of the streaks, because the residue of the whatever I'm using to clean the windows with leaves back residue. So you got to wipe off the residue of whatever you're using to clean, as well as all the crap you're trying to get off there in the first place. So those of you that are smokers are definitely going to want to clean the inside of your windows a lot more often than us non-smokers. I used to be a smoker about 9-10 years ago, and I haven't had a cigarette since, but I know I used to be a pretty heavy smoker, and smoke puts a nasty film on your windows. But even if you're not a smoker, if you just the act of breathing slowly puts a film of moisture which picks up dust and whatever's flying around in the air that you might not be noticing, but over time a film builds up on the inside of your truck, even if it's all just you breathing. And then depending on whether you got pets on your truck, depending on whether or not you vape or smoke, or you're cooking very greasy stuff or having a lot of steam or whatever, just everything contributes to getting your windows filthy. But there's just a lot of little things. Try to keep your truck picked up. Try to keep the clutter down. Try not to accumulate too much crap on your truck. Try to, you know, make priorities and try to get from one pickup to the next delivery, straight on to the next pickup as quickly as you can. Don't fart around, don't mess around. Try to manage your time to get further quicker legally. You shouldn't have to resort to playing all sorts of games and resorting to ridiculous stuff. So anyway, this is a very long-winded video. I may get up and redo this video, maybe not. I have no idea how long this video is, but I think I've talked enough. I've been going over and over, but whatever. Thanks for stopping by and watching this video. Hopefully this video helped somebody. And I don't know what I'm going to call this video. Maybe trip planning, time management, and memorizing stuff through time and experience, something like that, or something. Experience will teach you a lot. So the longer you drive, the more you'll memorize, the more you'll do stuff, the more your skills will get better. You'll become a better, more confident backer, and all kinds of stuff. Make sure you know how to chain up a truck. Get you a 50-foot air hose. Yes, you want a GPS, but you also want a road atlas to check things out and to look things up. Make sure you're doing that as you go places. And an air gauge, tire thumper. Make sure you're using gloves and not getting your hands all nasty. Just do your job, pay attention, and try to be one of those guys that knows how to manage your time and to not park your truck in the way when you're at truck stops and receivers and shippers and wherever you go. Try to be courteous about what and how and what you're doing on and off the truck, and make sure that you're trying to present yourself in a courteous and professional manner. Try to look clean and well shaven, or whatever. Try to look professional. Wear your high vis stuff when you're at customers and around the truck. So don't try to be pushy when you're at customers. Be respectful. Know the difference between finding out what you got to find out to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're at these places. If you're confused by what they're telling you, just ask again, and stuff like that. Make sure you're calling and get confirming directions when you need to. Don't rely too heavily on a GPS, and don't let it lead you into a jam. If your GPS cannot find the address of where you're trying to get to, don't be afraid to use Google Maps, but understand that it might try to lead you astray and take you the wrong way, because it doesn't understand that you're in a big truck and you can't go everywhere the cars go. So you will have to make a lot of judgment calls as to whether to follow blindly what any GPS is telling you what to do. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you next video. Hopefully this video has helped somebody. Thank you. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like. Leave any comments or questions for either I or anybody else watching this video and reading the comments, that maybe either I or somebody else can answer your comments or questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Bye.